This is like the fifth time I've recorded this video and I'm like so over it. Oh my gosh, I am so over it. Play Summer Walker. Hello everyone, it's me again, Geisha Dedra, back with another video, so thank you for tuning in. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how I maintain my Japanese now that I'm back in the States. Many of you know that I lived in Japan in 2018 to 2019, and I learned a lot. My Japanese got super duper good, and it was honestly the best it's ever been. Now that I'm back in the US, particularly back in the SF Bay Area, there's not as many opportunities to use my Japanese, and I have noticed a slight decrease in my ability. However, I have more or less found the formula that is keeping me at a certain range that I'm content with, and I want to share that with you today. When you're talking about any language, it's important to address the four major skills. That is reading, writing, listening, and speaking. My current study regimen consists of addressing each of these four skills in different ways. Let's start off by listening. So the way that I practice my listening is with watching anime and J-dramas. Isn't it ironic that this is how I started initially as a high schooler, watching anime and watching dramas and listening to them and just hearing the language and getting so excited. And now that I've gone and come back, this is where I've landed again. But it is true and true a very good way to get your listening skills up. Although anime is infamous for not being really accurate as far as how Japanese is worded, it isn't too bad for someone who knows the language already. It's a great way to get that insight for different kinds of tones, different speaking styles. The main way I get my listening practice with this method is watching it in the original language, which is Japanese, without subtitles. It's a way to train your ear to hear for certain different kinds of keywords, emphasis. You're able to pick out those itty bitty pieces of what they're saying that give you context. This is one thing I haven't been able to do in the States primarily because I don't hear Japanese as much, nearly as much as I used to. But with watching anime and dramas, I'm able to still train my ear to hear Japanese and hear different kinds of Japanese. I'm currently watching Agretsuko season 4, and it's interesting because the voices there are very exaggerated, but it's a sufficient substitute in my eyes. Going on, we're going to talk about speaking. So speaking is a tricky one because without someone to talk to, it's kind of difficult to speak. I do from time to time speak to myself, so when you're down and out, that is an option. However, my preferred method is using Hello Talk. So this app is based in language exchange. So you spend a certain amount of time talking in your language and a certain amount of time in the language that your partner speaks. And this video is not sponsored, but this has been a major key, especially now that I'm back home. I have thankfully found this group that meets via Zoom, a bunch of different Hello Talkers. They meet via Zoom twice a week and they just speak Japanese to each other. And we've actually become pretty good friends. That is how I get my speaking practice. Next, let's talk about reading. I will say for the next two skills, they are the weakest skills I have in literally any language. I am a very strong listener speaker and a very weak reader writer, and I guess the kind of same is for English too. What I'm doing nowadays for practicing my reading skills is still watching dramas and anime. But there's a twist. What I do is I'll watch dramas and anime, but I will add a Japanese subtitle on there. Ooh, yes. With those Japanese subtitles, they are pretty advanced, and this is actually a really great way to not only train your ear, but to train your eye and your brain so that you can not only speed read, but read to accuracy and learn new kanji. I will watch a show, put on the subtitles, and read it as quickly as possible. Sometimes it's very fast because people speak very quickly, but more or less you're able to get the general gist of an anime. And if you're really trying to challenge yourself, you can turn off the volume and just read it and see if you can still follow the story. And it's really interesting to train your brain that way. It's basically using the same method to target different skills. And last but not least is writing. And writing is another tricky one simply because I've always had kind of questionable handwriting in Japanese, but I have been writing not by hand, but by text. So not many of you know, but I work as a co-teacher in an English school in Saga, Japan, which is in Kyushu. Once a week, I meet up via Zoom and have a class for about 40 minutes. But the co-teacher and I don't do our planning during that period. What we'll do is text each other in Japanese about what we plan to do for the lesson, what the topics are, how we want to break down the time. Even though texting doesn't quite count as writing, I still consider it turning your thoughts into written language, which is writing in a way. Even though this isn't an exhaustive list of what you can do to improve your skills if you're not in the country of the language you're learning, I hope that you are able to gain something of value. So that's all for today. If you like this video, please like it so I can see that you do. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe and become part of the YouTube fam. But I hope you guys have a great day or a great night, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!